F1 Manager 2023 now has a release date. It's going to be coming out on July the 31st, later this summer. Kind of makes sense because that is actually the start of the real-life F1 summer break. So going to that summer break, you know, there's no races to watch, so you may as well play some F1 games, be it the main F1 game from EA and Cody's, and clearly Frontier are thinking you could play F1 Manager 23.
A sprint victory and points up for grabs right here.
Push as much as you can. Copy.
Can they push more, I wonder? They can't afford to sit back and relax now.
Box, box. Are we in trouble or not?
A chance to see just what Charles Leclerc can achieve here. Oh, and that's a crash!
Are there any opportunities? I'm driving. Push and hold, overtake. And push now, make sure I push now.
And McLaren with a great overtake.
Good one for the team. Well done, everyone.
A fantastic result for McLaren there. Stay right here, because we're just getting started.
A little bit earlier than last year, and to be fair, I think the timing like this makes a bit more sense with that summer break. I think last year it was kind of, towards the end of the summer break, kind of, so it kind of made less sense in that kind of regard. And that's not the only new thing to be real today with F1 Manager 23. So there is going to be a brand new camera, which is Visor Cam. Look how insane this looks. I think this is actually really one-to-one with how the Visor Cam looks in real life. So an epic new way to visually go through all the different sessions, practice, quali, race, you know, raining or dry or whatever. You got this other camera, obviously the usual onboards and the track cameras off-board to get a better picture of everything. But you've also got the Visor camera now, which looks stunning, to be honest. It's just a really cool, epic way of, you know, getting that feel of speed and sense of downforce and just how mad these cars are, basically, whilst you're playing the game. I don't know how much, you know, use it maybe in terms of spotting things, maybe to try and manage, or like, oh, you're going to catch up to a pack of cars. But in terms of visually, just for a little bit, it's going to be a really cool camera to use. And then secondly, this was a mode that I mentioned in my first video. You might remember, like, two weeks back now, I think, when we first came out with F1 Manager 23 gameplay for the first time in details. We talked about this new mode called Race Replay mode. Now, I was asked, and all us creators were asked, not to kind of flesh out what this race replay would mean until a later point, and this is that later point. So I've got a bit of a blurb here and description from Frontier about what this is going to be, so I'm going to read it out. Players will relive key moments from the 2023 FIA Formula 1 Championship with a brand new race replay mode, with features 2 unique types of scenarios. In starting grid, which is one scenario, players will take control of a team of their choice in a full race which replicates the track conditions and grid positions from the real world counterpart. So let's take the Spanish Grand Prix just gone. If they were recreating that for the starting grid in the race replay mode, you'd have, you know, Alonso down in P9, Lando up in P3, Leclerc and Perez down the order, and you can choose whatever, you know, team you want to manage, basically both drivers. And you can then go from there, and the conditions will be the same. So no rain, maybe a bit of sweat in George Russell's helmet, but you know, matching the conditions basically in that race. And then the second scenario in the race replay mode is race moments. So meanwhile, this will challenge fans to take control of a specific scenario partway through the real Grand Prix, aiming to achieve a set objective before the checker flag is waved, capturing key strategic calls from throughout a thrilling season. And in general, following the conclusion of every gripping real-world race in the 23 season, new starting grids and race moments in that race replay mode will be added to F1 Manager 2023, testing team principals from week to week as they establish their management credentials. So this is a bit, you know, this is their kind of look at doing kind of more ongoing kind of content releases to kind of make you come back to the game. You know, the career mode, there is there is a certain amount you can play until it may get to a point where you feel like, oh, I've kind of done everything I can in the game. As far as I know, unfortunately, I don't think we can still swap teams in the same save or get fired and then sign for a different team at the moment. I don't know. They haven't really mentioned anything like that. So, unfortunately, I do think this game is going to suffer from the same problem as last year's game, that after eventual, like, 3 seasons or something, depending on the team you're with, it will kind of get like, okay, there's nothing more really to extract from the game in terms of experiences. So this is going to be a nice different way to experience the game in a one-off race, one-off scenario, and also kind of get engaged with the real-life season. How many times do we think and look at, what's happened in the real race, and we think, oh, like, let's say Alonso at Monaco, like, not pitting for Inters, like, oh, we should absolutely pit for Inters. So, if the game was coming out earlier and Monaco is one of the scenarios, I don't know, maybe it's going to come pre-baked in with all the scenarios from the previous Grand Prix. If it does, for sure, Monaco, what the scenario for the race moment has to be managing Aston Martin and pitting Alonso for Inters at the right time and trying to then win the Grand Prix. So, these are ways that, week to week, like they say, or, how many ever weeks there are in between Grand Prix, to get engaged with the game again by playing these one-off races. And definitely going to be a fun little bit of like a new challenge one-off every time we get these content drop. And along with actually talking about kind of drip-feeding content through the year and just having more different types of races to play, there's actually a note here about if you pre-order the Deluxe edition, the Deluxe edition of the game comes with 12 exclusive scenarios split across starting grid and race moments. These will further test team principles, creating single race experiences which pose hypothetical challenges. So what if there was rain in Bahrain? Question mark. If every car was equal, who would win out? Question mark. So that's really epic. That's the kind of, that's doing scenarios that, like us, like YouTube creators would kind of do for like a fun video, but it's already been set up, baked into the game as 12 exclusive scenarios for everyone to play, basically. So, obviously, yeah, the rain in Bahrain, it's never going to rain in Bahrain, ever in the game, basically. So what if it did? How would track conditions, fare? How would the teams, fare with it? How will you fare with it? And then things like the equal cars as well. I mean, that's one that's always questioned about, oh, who's going to be the better driver in equal machinery, etc. So having those scenarios just totally different to what you get in a normal career where it's realistic. It's more about, the immersion and everything. That's more about just these one-off things, because, sometimes you don't have all the time in the world, especially if you're at work, you're at uni, college, whatever, school have you, you may not have all the time in the world to do a long career. You may just want to sit down and play a fun little scenario like this. And certainly, they've already revealed 2 of them, but, if those are 2 of the scenarios of the 12, there's 10 others that are going to be wackier, maybe things like reverse grid, or, I don't know, the possibility is quite endless in terms of what they could be potentially in terms of, how you start the race, or the weather, or the actual performance, because, I'm quite surprised they've done equal cars, because that's not even a setting in the normal game on F1 Manager 22, so, clearly they're able to go in and kind of modify the actual performances and things like that, to give you these scenarios. So sky's the limit of, like, maybe they're going to be able to, give us a scenario based of driver ratings, or like what would happen if you put F2 drivers on the grid or whatever like that. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. So yeah, that's really neat, really cool way to be able to play the game differently. And for sure, I think, I can honestly say for me, there was that point in F1 Manager 22 where I did get bored of the career, and I didn't feel like there was any need to play it more because I got all the gameplay from it. Whereas this gives you brand new gameplay, just because of the scenarios and the challenge you have to do versus, okay, it's the usual, just upgrading the car, making it better, trying to grind for these positions and maybe getting frustrated you can't get a higher one. This is now just a complete out, left field kind of thing. So yeah, I rate that a lot, and I really hope they actually build on that maybe, and give us further ones, because they've talked about the Grand Prix scenarios, but I hope that they can maybe develop more one-off, not related to a GP scenarios, and give that later as like downloadable content maybe down the line. That would be really awesome, just to inject some life into the game as you go on to like the winter season for real life Formula 1, let's say. So liking the sound of that. I love the look of the visor cam, but that is the only extra other info that we are being told right now at the moment. The rest of the info about this game I've already covered in my first video, by the way. So if you haven't seen that, be sure to go check that out, because that covers, you know, pretty much all the foundational stuff that they were wanting to announce at this point in time. Obviously, there's still, you know, till the end of July till the game comes out, so there may well be future gameplays and things that are coming out. So for that, get subscribed and I will bring it to you as soon as I can. But yeah, F1 Manager 23, a different way to kind of play the game with the race replay mode. We've got the visor cam and it's coming out July 31st, bit earlier in the year, just in time for the F1 summer break. So that's been all the news today from the game and Frontier Dev. So guys, if you have enjoyed it, again, hit that like button please. Let me know what you thought in the comments below and I'll catch you guys around. Goodbye.